Hi everyone, my name is Ying Wu and I'm with the Prevailing Wage team at Office of Labor Standards Enforcement. Today we're going to go over the 3 different laws that we enforce in our office, and they are Chapter 6, Chapter 23, Citywide PLA. Here's a little overview of these 3 laws and who are subject to these laws. Next. So throughout today's presentation, we're going to go over the Chapter 6, which is the basics of prevailing wage requirements in the city, tips of how to stay in compliance, and also a web tour of our PW webpage. Next. So what is prevailing wage? Traditional prevailing wage is the total hourly wages and benefits paid on public works projects for a particular craft, classification, or the type of construction work. It was originated during the Depression era, and there are currently about 38 states nationwide that have these laws. It's required for all public works projects that are funded by the federal, state, and or local government level. There are 2 parts of the prevailing wage. The first one is the basic hourly rate, which includes the overtime and the holiday pay. And the second part is the benefit. They're including pension, vacation, retirement, health and welfare, etc. And together, you have the total hourly rate. Next. So what is public works? Public works, it refers to infrastructure projects paid for in whole or in part out of public funds. Below are the 4 examples of public works projects at different government levels. You have the federal building, which requires Davis-Bacon prevailing wage. And then you have the state, Chapter 6, and also the other government agency funded projects. Next. And public work is defined under the Labor Code Section 1720 as construction, alteration, demolition, installation, maintenance, or repair work done under contract and paid for in whole or in part of public funds. The contract amount has to be over $1,000. And over the time, the definition of public works has expanded to all of these followings. Pre-construction activities, including the soil material testing, land surveying, and other pre-construction activities. Construction performed during the design, site assessment, feasibility study, and other pre-construction phases, regardless of whether any further construction work is being conducted. And then you have the post-construction activities, such as the final cleanup of a construction project, and also the AB 219, which includes the delivery of the ready-mix concrete drivers. Next. So here is a little overview of Chapter 6. Chapter 6 governs public works or improvement contracting policies and procedures in the city. It's for construction work only. And Chapter 6 departments including the followings: the MTA, SFO, PUC, Recreation and Park, San Francisco DPW, and also the ports. One easy way to remember Chapter 6 is the number 6 means 6 departments in the city. Next. So what must a public works contractor do to comply with the law? Well, first of all, you have to stay registered with the DIR when you are working or bidding on public works projects. You need to comply with the apprenticeship requirements. You need to maintain and furnish certified payroll records. Make sure that you are submitting the certified payrolls to LCP Tracker, which is the city system, and also to the state. You need to pay the correct prevailing wage rate for all workers for the craft, classification, and the type of work that they performed. Next. So here's a link for you to register when you are planning to bid or work in public works projects. The registration with the state and renewal is by fiscal year, which is July 1st to June 30th. There is a non-refundable registration fee of $400. The penalty is going to be $2,000 if you fail to register when you bid on a public works project or when you have been awarded a public works project. Please be noticed that OLC do not enforce this provision of the law. DIR does. This is just a courtesy reminder for you all. There is no DIR registration required for small projects that is under $25,000 for construction or $15,000 for maintenance work. Next. So what if a contractor fails to register? Well, first of all, you cannot bid or work on public works contracts. You can be removed from any public works projects in which that you are working on. There's a penalty that I mentioned before. It's going to be $2,000 plus the $400 registration or renewal fee for a violation that is within the first 12-month period. If you can renew your registration within the 90 days grace period, then the penalty is going to be only $400, but the registration fee is going to be the same, another $400, so that you can continue to work on public works project. And if you are contracting with a non-registered contractor or subcontractor, you can replace a registered contractor with the one who is not registered. Next. Next is the apprenticeship requirements. Contractors working on a public works project valued at $30,000 or more have an obligation to hire apprentices. That apprentice must be registered in a state-approved apprenticeship program, and make sure that you are paying the apprenticeship training contributions to CAC. Here's the link to CAC. And also, if you see a pound sign next to a title of the craft that you're working on, then that means that the craft is apprenticeable. If you do not see any notation or you see double pound sign, then that means the craft is not apprenticeable. There's also a minimum ratio required. And in general, it's 1 apprentice hours to every 5 hours of journey person. And it's counted at the end of the project at straight time hours. So for more information, definitely check out the DIR website where they enforce the apprenticeship requirements. Again, the apprenticeship requirement is not enforced by our office. Next. This is also not enforced by our office. It's the skilled and trained workforce. The new bill SB 693 requires to use skilled and trained workforce. All workers must be 1, skilled journey person, or 2, the DAS of registered apprentices. So you may ask, who is a skilled journey person? That person must be graduated from a DAS approved apprenticeship program or graduated from a DOL approved apprenticeship program, or they have on-the-job experience, and the hours must equal to the same hours required to graduate in a DAS approved apprenticeship program. Several exemptions may apply, and they are: if work performed is less than 10 hours in a calendar month for each craft, or if the sub is not listed in the bid and the contract amount doesn't exceed 0.5% of the total project cost. But for more information, again, please contact DIR and visit its website, and they're all listed in here. Next. So let's talk about something that we enforce. Is the certified payroll. All contractors must maintain and provide payroll records on a weekly basis for all workers employed on public works projects. These records must be certified under the penalty of perjury. You also need to submit the CPRs and fringe benefit statements into the system called LCP Tracker. Failure to provide any payroll records to us within 10 days after the receipt of a written request is subject to $100 penalties per worker per day. So we hold free LCP Tracker training on second Tuesday of every month. And if you're not available to attend, we also offer pre-recorded webinars covering the basics of how to submit CPRs. And I'm going to show you later how to look for those links on our website. Next. So who must be reported on CPRs? The answer is all workers performing cover work must be reported regardless of your title, which means even if you're a partner of your company, the owner of your company, independent contractors, sole proprietors, you all have to report yourself on certified payrolls when you perform the cover work. And you also have to report the same work that is being performed at the job site and classify it correctly. Any misclassification can equal to a prevailing wage violation. Next. So what happens if prevailing wages are not paid? Our office is going to issue assessment for back wages plus penalties of not less than $50, but not more than $200 per worker per day. And during the audit period, we're going to ask for proof of payments, such as canceled checks, evidence of fringe benefit payments, pay stubs, timesheets, just to ensure that the prevailing wage have been properly paid. Next. So let's see how we are going to find or locate an applicable prevailing wage determination. Well, first of all, bid advertisement date is very important because the bid advertisement date determines which wage determination applies. And there are several days that we have to take a look at because the DIR issues 2 determinations each year, which is February 22nd and August 22nd. Prevailing wage determinations become effective 10 days after the issuance date, which is the March 4th on a regular year, or 3rd if it's a leap year, and September 1st. So you have to pay close attention to the footnotes. If you see one single asterisk after the expiration date, that means the whole wage determination is going to be in effect for the lifetime of the project. If you see double asterisks after the expiration date, it means there are increases being set forth in the wage determination itself. And you are going to pay a higher rate as the project progresses. Next. So here are some dates in here, and we can do a little practice. You see that we are taking a project that has a bid advertisement date on January 3rd, 2021, which is in red in here. And remember that we talked about that the wage determinations issue twice a year, right? And they're on February 22nd and also August 22nd. And they're all highlighted in blue here. But the most importantly, we look at the effective date. The effective date is 10 days after the issuance date. So we're going to look at the March 4th of 2021 and also September 1st of 2021. And in this example, do you know which wage determination to be used? I'll give you a few seconds to find out. And next. The answer is 2020-2. The reason is the bid date on January 3rd, 2021 is issued before the effective date, which is March 4th. So you're going to use the previous one, which is 2020-2. Any projects bids between September 1st, 2020 to March 3rd, 2021 is going to be the second determination of the year. And any projects that bids between March 4th to August 30th would be the first determination of the year. Next. So how do you find that wage determination? Well, you have to go to the DIR website to look up the wage determination for your project. So here's the link being provided in here. And once you click on it, you are going to select the supersede the prevailing wage determination, because we're using the example from the last slide, which is 2020-2. So click on the highlighted link and we go to the next page. Next. Okay, so once we get to the next page, you do see that 2020-2 is listed as superseded. There are two links under that one. One is the journey person rate, and the second one is the apprentice rate. For the example today, we're going to use the journey person's rate, and we're going to look for cement mason. So let's click on general prevailing wage determination, which is the journey person's rate here highlighted in red. Next. So after you click on that link, there are different steps in the wage determination. You see that we have 11 trades that's under the statewide. And then in step 2, there are about 26 classifications or trades under Northern California, such as carpenters, cement mason, laborers, operating engineers, things like that. And if you go to step 4 to choose San Francisco County, you will find more trades and classifications there. And for today's example, we're going to go click on Northern California to find cement mason. Next. All right, so for your convenience, we have highlighted cement mason in line 53. So before clicking on the cement mason, I just want to go over really quickly about the two columns on the right. The first column is the holidays, scope of work, travel, and subsistence. There is a drop-down menu, so if you're interested in knowing what is the legal holiday for cement mason or what is the detailed scope of work for cement mason, definitely click on there to choose that. And on the further right, you see there is a predetermined increase link. So you basically know if there is a link for the increase, that means there would be an increase. If you do not see the link, such as the building construction inspector and field soil material testers, you don't see the link there, then that means there is no increase. And to get the increase, just click on that link. So let's click to cement mason to find out what is the wage sheet look like. Next. All right, so once you click in it, you see that there is a pound sign or hashtag next to the cement mason. Then that means the craft is apprenticeable. And then you see the double asterisk on next to the expiration date. So that means there is an increase, which is just like what we thought. And down below, you see there is a basic hourly rate, which is $39.20. And then adding up all the fringe benefits totaling to $65.86. Next. So if we click to the increase, this is what it looks like. And this is a sample for a cement mason classification. So on the bottom of the page, you see that there are several increases throughout the project time. Effective July 1st, 2021, there is an increase of $2.45 allocated to wages and or fringe benefits. And a year later, in July 1st, 2022, there will be another increase of $2.25 being allocated to wages and or training or other employer payments. Next. So let's take a look at the Summit Mason wage rate and see what should be paid for straight time and also for overtime. You can see it here. The basic hourly rate is $39.20, and the basic hourly rate is going to factor into the overtime calculation. But the employer payment, which is $26.66, it's not going to be calculated into the overtime payment. So for regular rate, the total hourly rate is going to be $65.86. But for overtime hourly rate, it's going to be $85.46. Next. And another interesting thing about basic hourly rate is because it's being factored into the overtime calculation, you cannot reduce the basic hourly rate and pay it toward other fringes. So for example, it's okay that you're paying $40, which is higher than the basic hourly rate required, plus a lower employer payment, $25.86. Together, you still have the total hourly rate of $65.86, so that's okay. But what's not okay is that you're lowering the basic hourly rate to $30, but making it up in the fringe benefit payments. Even though you're still making it up, it is not going to be okay, and it's going to be a violation of the law. So please pay attention to it and make sure that you are paying at least the basic hourly rate to your employees. Next. Now, let's emphasize what we have talked about in the previous slides in the frequently asked questions section. The question is, if owners or partners work on a project, do they have to be paid prevailing wages? The answer is yes. Anyone who works on a public works project for the cover work must be paid the prevailing wage rate for all hours worked. Next. What if an employee is just a learning trade or is just a helper on the project? Can I pay him or her a lesser rate? The answer is no. All employees must be paid the prevailing wage rate for the type of work that they perform. Only apprentices who are enrolled in the state-approved apprenticeship program are allowed to be paid less than the prevailing wage rate for the craft that they perform. Next question. So what does it mean when there is a single asterisk or double asterisk after the expiration date of a prevailing wage determination? The answer is the prevailing wage determinations with a single asterisk after the expiration date, which are in effect for the date of the advertisement for bids, remains in effect for the life of the project. Prevailing wage determinations with double asterisk after the expiration date indicates that the basic hourly wage rate, overtime, holiday pay rate, and employer payments for work performed after this date have been determined. If work is to extend past this date, the new rate must be paid and should be incorporated in contracts entered into now. Next. So for more information, definitely check out our website because we do provide different information about the different areas of the law. And here I'm going to give you a brief web tour of our page. Okay, so once you click on the link provided in this slide, we are going to see that this page is what it looked like for prevailing wage construction. And remember that we are providing our monthly training and webinars in our website. It's available on the top under news and updates. You can see the training and webinar page for information on available and upcoming trainings on the new system. You just need to click on it. And then you can see that there is a webinar that is pre-recorded for you to know how to submit certified payrolls. And then we have a quick start guide for how to enter CPRs into LCP Tracker. And next we have our training schedule for 2021, and we are going to update our schedule really soon. So after that, these are basically the training that's available on our website for public works projects. And if we go back, we see that there is session for Chapter 6. And here are some pre-bid, pre-con materials and fact sheets available for the projects that is particularly for a regular project in San Francisco and also for construction projects in SFO. And then we have different fact sheets and resources provided in here that you can take a look at. And next we have the Chapter 23, and we are going to go over it later on. And these are the materials or information for Chapter 23. And if we go to upper right-hand corner, we have different quick links. So if you are interested to learn about the citywide project labor agreement, you can definitely click on here as well. And we will give you an overview and the laws about the citywide project labor agreement, which is the citywide PLA. And later today, we're going to go over that as well. All right, so let's get back to the slide to talk about Chapter 23. After we went over Chapter 6 and the basics of the prevailing wage requirements, let's go over Chapter 23 and its related requirements. Next. The Board of Supervisors passed these Chapter 23 specifically for private developments in city-owned or leased properties or private housing development that was sold or transferred by the city. The law basically expands the prevailing wage and apprenticeship coverage for these types of private developments. And the operative date is April 20th, 2016. Next. So here are some examples of the private development on city-owned or leased property. It's the Pier 70. It was leased by the city for private development and renovation in exchange for a long-term lease as the tenants. So even though it's a private development project, prevailing wage is required. Next. The next one is the 30 Van Ness. It was sold by the city for residential development. And again, because it was sold by the city, the whole project is going to require prevailing wages. Next. So we have some frequently asked questions for Chapter 23 as well. Let's take a look at it. How do I know what is the correct craft or classification for the work my employees are doing? The answer is the scope of work for each craft is listed on the DIR website and on some of the page in the wage determinations. If you have questions about the type of work that may be performed by each craft, please call us at 415-554-6573 or OPRL, which is the DIR, at 415-703-4774. Next. The next question is, I'm working in the giant seawall lot 337, which is privately funded. Am I entitled to prevailing wages? The answer is yes, because the giant seawall lot 337 project was leased by the city for a new mixed-use development and affordable housing project. It's going to be subject to prevailing wage requirements under Chapter 23. Next. Okay, so let's go over a little bit about the citywide PLA. It is a comparatively new law that our office enforces. Now, the prevailing wage requirements for the projects issued by San Francisco Public Works or Recreation and Parks Department that meet specific dollar threshold would be subject to prevailing wage and also subject to the project labor agreement. Next. So what is citywide PLA? The PLA is an agreement between the city and the County of San Francisco and the San Francisco Building Trades Council and its affiliated unions. The legislative intent is to promote the efficiency and cost effectiveness of construction operations for the city through the use of skilled labor, resulting in quality construction outcomes. The PLA was signed and took effect on July 14, 2020. The PLA only applies to cover contracts that are issued by Public Works and also the Recreation and Park, only two departments. Next. So what is a cover project? Construction projects advertised by the Public Works or the Rec and Park if the following conditions are met. One is that the project is funded in whole or in part by general obligation or revenue bonds, and the estimated construction cost exceeds the following threshold amounts. It's $5 million from July 14, 2020 to July 13, 2021, and $3 million from July 14, 2021 to July 13, 2022. And after that, we have $1 million from July 14, 2022 to July 13, 2040. Projects funded by any source other than the above-mentioned bonds and the estimated construction cost to be more than $10 million. So if a project is funded by both general funds and bonds, the higher standard, which means the lower dollar threshold, would trigger PLA. Next. If you are a local business enterprise, then it's a good news for you because there is an exemption for it. Qualifying LBE, which is the local business enterprise, are exempt from the terms and conditions of the PLA. The LBE must be certified by CMD under the Admin Code, Chapter 14B, and the LBE exemption applies to LBEs whose accumulative payments are less than $5 million on citywide PLA cover projects. LBEs wishing to be exempt from the PLA must sign and submit a statement of exemption. The LBEs who have been issued $5 million in cumulative payments on cover projects are no longer exempt from the PLA. Next. So we have some frequently asked questions about that as well. Can contractors hire their own workers under the PLA? The answer is yes, but with restrictions. Except for exempt LBEs, all contractors are bound by the hiring hall provision of the unions, to which their scope of work was assigned at the pre-job meeting. Requirements for the use of core workers by non-signatory contractors are identified in sections 2.1.8 and 4.7.1 of the citywide PLA. Next question. I am a professional service provider. Will I be affected? The answer is yes, but also under certain circumstances. Generally speaking, the citywide PLA does not include the professional service contracts. However, professional service contracts that include the trade work performed under the design build contracts are covered. Next. Can contractors hire their own workers under PLA? Oh, next, please. If my prime contractor received more than $5 million from cover projects, will it affect my LBE exemption status? The answer is each exempt LBE has its individual $5 million threshold. Exemption from the citywide PLA applies to LBEs that are certified by the Contract Monitoring Division, which is CMD, and its accumulated payments on cover projects do not exceed the $5 million. Next. The next question is, I am an LBE prime contractor that received more than $5 million on cover projects. However, I would disperse all the payments to my subcontractors. Will I still be exempt? The answer is no. The citywide PLA only applies to cover projects issued by the Department of Public Works and Recreation and Park. Next. I am an LBE contractor that received $5 million from an SFO PLA project. Will that affect my $5 million LBE exemption threshold? The answer is no. The citywide PLA only applies to cover projects issued by the Department of Public Works and Recreation and Parks. Next. So here's a best practice for construction-related prevailing wage compliance. Well, first of all, you need to attend the pre-bid pre-con meetings so that you learn what is the applicable prevailing wage for the project that you're working on. And then you need to submit the certified payrolls on a regular basis to LCP Tracker. You need to maintain and furnish payroll records and fringe contribution records. You also need to contact us if you have any questions regarding prevailing wages. Next. Other common compliance issues, including that the contractors are not paying attention to the predetermined changes. An applicable wage determination remains in effect for the life of the project. Please look up the predetermined changes associated with an applicable craft instead of looking up the newest wage determination. And then also for training fund, we got a lot of non-signatory contractors paying training funds directly to their employees. It is actually a violation. Training fund has to be contributed to an approved apprenticeship program or to CAC, California Apprenticeship Council. It cannot be paid to the workers directly. We also have another OT issues, which is overtime for plumbers, sheet metal workers, or even inside wiremen in San Francisco. Certain classifications in San Francisco County requires overtime payments for work over 7 hours a day. So please keep it in mind when you're scheduling your workers. Next. If you have any questions, again, definitely feel free to call us at 415-554-6573, or you can email us at prevailingwage@sfgov.org, or you can look up our website at www.sfgov.org/OSE/prevailing wage. That concludes our meeting. and training. Thank you so much.